Well, absolutely. And so when you obviously so you were assembling and organizing people to support Doug Ford, needless to say, when he was doing those cuts, it was abysmal. And it was around the same time I think that they were slashing around with sex ed courses and
Yeah.
taking us back to 1995, and it was just a huge mess here in Ontario. But at some point in your high school years, you were inspired, um, or were, I guess, became aware of the issues with menstrual products and young women in school. A lot of times, I guess, in urban schools or in indigenous communities, without access to feminine care products. And it's a really interesting thing to kind of center around when there's all these different causes. So what brought you there specifically?
So in terms of talking about like period poverty and period stigma, as you say, absolutely, there's so many problems. And I remember my mom like sitting down and just being like, why this? Like, why is this something that you really want to get into? And I think that there's so many interesting components to these problems. And because nobody knows about it, it just makes it so much more important to advocate on behalf of it. Like, there's so many things to get involved in. And that's why I always tell people, like, pick anything that you're passionate about. Like, you will find something if you look hard enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this to me was like, this is a natural bodily occurrence. Like, this is not something that people ask for. I'm sure if you ask the people who menstruate, most of them would say they rather they didn't. Like, this isn't necessarily something that people want to have happen. And it also isn't something that's new. Like, it's not like one day a bunch of people just started bleeding. Like, this has been happening for years, for centuries, since the beginning of time. So why hasn't there been a solution to it yet? And that question begs all of the other like components that go into period poverty and period stigma that just make you realize, like, oh my God, like it's 2021 and we're still having these conversations. If we are having these conversations, because sometimes they don't even happen because of the stigma.
And that's what I'm seeing. That's where, for me, and I'll give a personal anecdote on this, is that, I didn't really give it a whole lot of thought as, your 50-year-old white male. It never really occurred to me. I obviously would pick up period products for my wife. I'd pick up period products for my daughter and do all the things that I needed to do. But I was I earn a good living. It never occurred to me that it was, expensive. And it certainly never occurred to me, because I'm not necessarily socially as aware as you are, that holy crap, this would be a major issue if you were basically on the poverty line, or you were on welfare, or you were even, working at a fast food joint for $20,000 a year. That is and as I started thinking about it, and certainly talking to my daughter about it, because she's an activist in many places as well. The fact that it started to occur to me, like, oh my God. And then I realized how much it costs, how much a woman has to pay to take care of this thing that is part of of her organic, function. And why are we charging so much for these things? Why are these things not easier to get? And I started to be a little bit more enlightened by this. But obviously, this is something that, was first hand experience for somebody like you.